I walked out of my wedding when I discovered my fiancé excluded my daughter from everything. The first time I met Lauren, I thought she was everything I had been waiting for. At least that's what I told myself. After years of being just me and Molly, I had convinced myself that a fresh start was what we both needed. My daughter Molly was the light of my life. 6 years old when everything changed, she had been with me through thick and thin since her mother passed away. It was just the two of us against the world. No matter how much the world tried to bring us down, we always had each other. And that was enough. Then I met Lauren. Lauren was everything I thought I wanted. She was beautiful, successful, and seemed like she had it all figured out. I watched her with her 2 daughters, Emma and Sophie, and saw a woman who was capable of handling the demands of both motherhood and a career. She was warm, charming, and appeared to know just how to make everyone feel important. I thought maybe this was what our life had been missing. A family, a fresh start, a new chapter. At first things were good. Really good. Lauren and I hit it off right away. The chemistry was undeniable. But there was something else in the air that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Molly, my sweet Molly, wasn't her priority, and I didn't know why. I thought maybe it was just going to take some time for her to bond with Molly, that it was a process. I'd seen it happen with other blended families. But time passed and the distance only seemed to grow. Lauren's daughters were showered with attention, toys, trips, special moments. Molly watched from the sidelines, her big brown eyes never quite matching the enthusiasm of Emma and Sophie. She was quiet, always reserved, holding my hand as if it was the only thing that kept her tethered to the world. She didn't complain. Molly never complained. She was just that type of kid, strong, silent, selfless. But I could tell. I could see it in the way her eyes would flicker when Lauren's daughters were given something special, and Molly was left out. She never cried or threw a tantrum. Instead, she would just sit there quietly, absorbing it all, and I would tell myself, "It's fine, it'll get better." The first time I mentioned it to Lauren, I tried to keep it light. I asked if we could maybe include something for Molly next time. Maybe a small toy or a little surprise for her, just so she didn't feel left out. Lauren shrugged it off, saying she hadn't noticed and promised to get something next time. The next time never came. I tried to reassure myself. I kept thinking that maybe she just needed more time, maybe it was a learning curve. But when Christmas came around, things only got worse. Lauren bought her daughters expensive gifts, things that lit up, made noise, things that screamed, "I love you," with every wrap of the bow. Molly, on the other hand, received a simple coloring book. It wasn't that the gift itself mattered. It was that Molly had sat there so incredibly polite, thanking Lauren, smiling, but I could tell. She wasn't smiling because she was happy. She was smiling because that's what she thought she was supposed to do. We got home and she didn't open it. She didn't even look at it. She held the coloring book in her lap and stared at it, her little fingers tracing the cover like it was some kind of apology. I sat next to her, told her that maybe Lauren didn't mean to forget about her. Molly nodded, but I could tell she knew. She didn't need me to tell her. She was smarter than that. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rage at Lauren, at myself, at the situation. But instead, I just held my daughter. I told myself I'd fix it later. I'd fix it. Always later. I thought maybe her parents would come around. But Lauren's family wasn't much better. They smiled at you with that plastic politeness, but their words were daggers coated in honey. Her mom would say things like, "Lauren deserves someone who can take care of her. James, you're doing your best though," as if being the best didn't involve being present for my own daughter. Her mom and dad doted on Emma and Sophie. They were their pride and joy, the perfect little grandchildren. But Molly? Molly barely got a glance. I kept telling myself that it would change. They didn't know her yet. They didn't know how sweet and thoughtful she was. They would warm up. It would all come together. Eventually. But it didn't. Kyle, my best friend and Molly's godfather, was the first one to really call me out. One night, he came over with a 6-pack of beer, sat me down, and told me I was blind. He told me that Lauren wasn't going to change, that if she didn't love Molly now, she never would. He didn't need to say much more. I already knew he was right. I could feel it deep down, but I was too afraid to admit it. I brushed him off. I wasn't ready to hear it. Then Sarah, my sister, noticed. She came by one day, and while I was talking with Lauren, she saw Molly sitting at the table alone, coloring while Emma and Sophie were getting help with their homework. My sister took me aside and said the words I had been avoiding. "James, you're letting Lauren treat Molly like she doesn't even exist." I got defensive. I told her Lauren needed more time, that it wasn't that simple. But Sarah didn't buy it. 2 years, James. How much more time does she need? That hit me hard. How much longer could I ignore the truth? How much longer could I pretend everything was fine when it was falling apart? The wedding was supposed to fix everything. I convinced myself that once we were officially a family, things would change. That once we exchanged vows, Lauren would start to see Molly as her own. It was naive, stupid even. But when you're desperate for something to work, you latch onto the hope that everything will magically come together. The months leading up to the wedding were filled with awkwardness. Small, subtle things at first. Family dinners where Lauren's daughters were the center of attention. Compliments on their clothes, their hair, their accomplishments. Molly would sit there quietly, always in the background, her tiny frame barely noticed. When Lauren's mom handed out small gifts after dinner one night, Molly was forgotten. I told myself it was an oversight, a mistake. But I knew it wasn't. And then came the seating chart. The moment that shattered everything. One evening, I walked into the kitchen, where Lauren and her mom were hunched over a table, finalizing the seating arrangement for the wedding. I glanced down at the paper, my heart sinking when I realized Molly's name wasn't on it. I asked Lauren where Molly would be sitting, and she just shrugged almost dismissively and said, "With your sister and the other kids." Molly wasn't just another kid. She wasn't one of the other kids. But to Lauren she was. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't find the words. I knew that this wasn't something I could ignore anymore. I wasn't going to let Molly be an afterthought at her own wedding. My daughter deserved to be loved, included, and cherished, and Lauren wasn't willing to give her that. I stood there looking at the seating chart, and for the first time, it hit me that maybe I had been wrong all along. I had been forcing a square peg into a round hole, hoping that if I just pushed hard enough, everything would fit. But it wasn't going to. It couldn't. Kyle was right. Sarah was right. And deep down I knew it too. That was the moment everything changed. I walked away from my wedding. I didn't care what Lauren thought, what anyone else thought. I had promised myself that I would do whatever it took to protect Molly. That meant walking away from something that was never going to work. Because at the end of the day, Molly is my world. And nothing is more important than her.